This is the Tristan Law Show, and if it's your first time here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Tristan Law, semi-retired pro wrestler and your host. Today we are joined by three-time UWA Elite Champion Corey Dillinger, a rising star in the independent wrestling scene who's been defending his title since July. He's been training on the legends like Dustin Rhodes, bound his way through the indie circuit, and Corey's journey is one of grit and determination. With his next defense in mind, Corey Dillinger will be defending his title at UWA Elite's Last Breath show, November 16th at 31 Reed Street, South River, New Jersey, at South River VFW. Get your tickets at uwaelite.com. Woo! Corey gives us an inside look on his story and his road to success. Corey, I would like to welcome you to the Tristan Law Show. What's going on, brother? It's a long time that I haven't seen you.
Yeah, it's been a long time, man. How you been? I hope things are well.
Everything is good, man. Everything is good. Practicing fatherhood, it's fun. It's not it's not perfect all the time, but you know what? The best part is that he's growing up and he's doing his thing. I recommend to everybody, if you're not a dad, look something that you're going to look into one day, but the moral of the story is don't have sex. So anyway, Corey, I mentioned a lot of things about you, so we're going to look into your history, into your future, into your present. We just want everybody to know who you are, because I know you, and I always say as well too, I don't know who you are fully, but this podcast, this Tristan Law Show, will allow everybody to learn who you are, and for me to learn a little bit more about you. But I know that you grew up in Irvington, New Jersey. What sparked your passion for wrestling? Was there a defining moment or match that made you say, I want to do this?
So it's funny, just watching the whole product of WWE, back in the day, it's always was something that got my attention. But where I lived at, it was not promoted. You didn't see much of people having, wrestling shows that I knew as a kid. So all they promoted was either basketball, baseball, football. So I tried all three sports. I did very well in basketball and baseball, so I just stick with it. And then I didn't get the opportunity to actually become a wrestler until somewhat of a dark time in my college career while I was playing semi-pro basketball, getting my degree. But yeah, and it's never looked back since then.
Well, that's the thing about pro wrestling, is that we all get there from many different ways. There's no really clear-cut way in how we all get there. We all just end up there. I didn't know that you played basketball in school. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Basketball was the first level of saving my life and giving me structure. I played for travel teams in my grade school years. I played for St. Patrick High School in my high school years, to St. Mary's when I transferred. And I ended up playing for Ewing County College, to Essex County College, and then I played semi-pro for the Garter State Rebels. I played there for one season, and it was that was my euphoria in my early years, and I loved it, and it gave me focus, it gave me determination, it gave me the reason not to quit, because this world will literally put you down if you have nothing to really push yourself to go forward.
So when you say saved your life, what do you mean?
What I mean saved my life, I mean it gave me structure, it gave me purpose. Other than going to school, I wanted to be the first generation graduate of my family, which I obtained. And I want to start a new standard for my next generation that I am trying to put out for the future. And let's just say a lot of other choices was in my way, and basketball helped me guide myself to not go to it. That's the best way I can say it. I'm not going to go in details, but that's the best way I can say it.
Look, I get it, brother. I get it. Look, I had something that saved what saved my life was spades. The card game spades. There was one time that I was actually, I was in a court case. This is when I was 15, got into a fight in school, big fight, brawl in the school. And, went to court. And one day I got out of the car, and one of the old heads was outside playing cards. And he goes, "It's knucklehead dudes like you." I'm censoring it. That's not what he said. But he said, "It's knucklehead dudes like you who go to prison that will end up in prison." He goes, "Why don't you come pull up a chair and learn how to play spades?" And ever since then, saved my life. I didn't get into no more trouble, didn't get arrested, didn't go to anything like that. So there's always one person out there that always saves us from everything. What are some wrestlers or moments that inspired you when you were growing up, and how did they shape your early approach to the sport of pro wrestling?
Oh man, like the list is almost on and on. But the first top five, it was of course Macho Man Randy Savage, his presence, Hulk Hogan, his presence, Ultimate Warrior, his freaking presence. Like I didn't realize like how much energy that man had until like later in the years. And I've been a big fan of Big Boss Man. So because fun fact, while I was a kid, I wanted to become a police officer. So seeing him on that actually gave me a little guidance. But life has churned things a little different. But it always caught my attention.
That's funny because I wanted to be a cop too. I want to be a cop so badly. So badly I want to be a cop. I want to be a cop so badly that when I wrestled, I tried so hard to not make people associate me with police. Like, oh my God, he's Tristan Law. He's got to be the police. And it's like, no, I don't want to be the police. And eventually I started embracing it just a little bit. But yeah, dude, I always want to be a cop. Whenever I say in my other life, and in the alternate reality, I become a pro wrestler and wrestle for the WWE. And in an alternate life, I actually become a cop and a good one. We work for the FBI and everything. But you know what? Life takes its turns. It's not always the way that we expect it to be. So it just works out the way that it's supposed to be.
That is so true. That is so true.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say was another thing that caught my attention in wrestling, and this is going like a little further from the timeline of where it come out the wrestlers. I've lost a little taste of wrestling because of my sport. I was so passionate in basketball that I got myself distracted, but then I stumbled across ECW, and that somewhat re-sparked it because my mentor at the time is a big wrestling fan. Shout out to Mike Bertram. He took me and my cousins to ECW shows, and where I actually had pictures of me having pictures with New Jack, Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer. And his best friend was actually the regional manager of Ruby Tuesdays at the time. So there were times where legit I would be in tables with those stars and didn't realize two and two together. So it's like that was also another thing that sparked me up. And watching guys like Tommy Dreamer and Raven and Sandman grow those characters, it made me understand that, there's different avenues of being inspired of pro wrestling.
It's funny. Our story just sounds so much the same. And it's like I said, there's an opportunity for us to know each other more and for the fans to get to know you a lot more. I was distracted a lot as well too, bro. I was a pro wrestling fan through and through. It was so bad that I think my mother hated pro wrestling even more because I loved it so much. I used to get the magazines, the WWF magazines, Raw magazine, the WCW magazine, just cut them out and paste them all over the room. But eventually what happened was that I grew up, and what happens when we start growing up, we start looking for girls and stuff like that. So I got really distracted. So I wasn't into wrestling as much as I wanted to be, but eventually something just like you, somebody roped you back in, somebody roped me back in, and that's why I get to sit here where I am now. But, starting with big dreams is one thing, but stepping into the indie scene and making those dreams a reality is a whole other challenge. Corey, what was it like breaking into the indie scene? Did it live up to your expectations?
Oh, man, breaking into the indie scene was something that I did not expect. It's a lot. Like the hard work, that's obvious. Playing basketball, understand by pushing yourself and, breaking the mold of certain things. And I'll be honest, I didn't think I was the build for wrestling at first. Like, yeah, I'm 6'2", 280 at the time. And I'm very agile because of my basketball background. But in regards of where I was at, it was a little bit challenging because I'm so used to moving quickly to now I got to slow down my pace and take my time on certain things. So for me to develop my wrestling craft even more. So it was definitely a challenge. And then also the mental outside of ring, making sure you go to the gym, make sure you work for the income, because this is not something that's being, a scholarship per se. This is something that you're coming out your hard-earned pay and money to just have the opportunity to show that you can be a professional wrestler and just grow from it. And luckily I met some great people in the process. Shout out to Gino Caruso for giving me the opportunity.
Yep.
Shout out to Kenny Bangle.
Yep.
Shout out to Sonny Kiss, the Graysons, Mike Orlando. Prince Akana, and also you Tristan, like, remember, like, at one point, the time you met me was actually when I started ish. So, like, I started when I was 26 years old. I'm 36 now. So a lot of people think that I've been wrestling since I was younger. I started late in the game. So to me, it's like playing catch up where there's no catch up.
I think a lot of the people in the wrestling schools these days, like Buddy Thomas and some of the other younger people, they have it a lot easier than we had it. I didn't start wrestling until I was maybe 21. I think I started wrestling school I started wrestling school in June, the first full week in June 2007. And that's where I went to Team 3D Academy in Florida. And I didn't really start taking it seriously until I came to New York and didn't have any like friends. All my friends grew up and moved on. So I had to find, new things, and wrestling became like my best friend. But, I think I got a late start as well too. But with technology and everything else, at their hand, like, it was so hard for me to find a wrestling school when I was looking, because we're not that much far apart. We're only 3 years apart, but two and a half years apart. But like, it's so much easier to find a wrestling school now than it was like back then. So, these kids are definitely lucky. Were there any surprises along the way doing your introduction into the indie scene?
Well, everything to me was a surprise because I didn't know what to expect. Let's just see. The fact that I was in the locker room with certain people and to get their wisdom, like Jimmy Fly Snooker, I was able to pick his brain. The Butcher, I was ready to pick his brain. The fact that I was with guys who got released from WWE at certain times, like Enzo Amore, or I had a previous moment with Zack Ryder. It was small. It was at a fan event, but I was able to pick its brain. It was surprising that I was able to meet so many people to get knowledge, to figure out what can I do to craft myself. And then also the traveling was a surprise to me. I knew I had to get there, but I didn't realize like how I had to get there. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to, carpool with people to save money, or I'm about to drive myself. And a lot of times I was actually driving myself. I was doing these solo trips from New Jersey to Connecticut, or New Jersey to Indianapolis, or New Jersey to Delaware or Philadelphia, one time for Georgia. It was shocking to know, like, this is a business. And I don't mean business as like the entirely. It's about me as a brand. I'm a business, and I'm learning that I'm actually have to do everything on my own to make things work. And if you have people along the way, it's a great thing. I was so used to playing team sports that where your teams are relying on you so much, but then realizing that I'm my own team and I have to take care of myself, and anybody else comes after is a blessing or a plus.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's like you don't realize that. Like, and it all depends on where you go to for a good wrestling school. And we're going to talk about, the wrestling school that you just recently went to, a couple months ago. But like, it's one of the things that when you learn from a really good pro wrestling school is that you're a business. Like, you're not, like my man Jay-Z said, you're not a businessman, you're a business man. Like, 100% you're a business. I didn't understand until I started sitting down with certain people, and certain people started telling me, hey, look, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to market yourself. And that's where some of the things where it came to me, learning how to learn and how to use social media and different things like that to project myself, because when I started, social media was still pretty much kind of brand new. Like, I remember when Twitter first came out, and I was like, oh, let me try this Twitter thing. And you could only do 75 characters. You had to learn how to get your point out in this much space. Like, Twitter's really huge for pro wrestling. And right now I'm using threads and different stuff like that to help promote the Tristan Law Show so people know what it is that I'm doing. So like, pro wrestling's not easy. It's not. It's a whole entire lifestyle and a mentality that people don't understand, because if you don't do it, you think but you have no idea.
But you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have no idea. Like, I remember the countless times where I had to figure out, catchphrases and slogans just for people to catch on while I'm wrestling. And now the fact that I got to be repetitively saying these catchphrases, having these hashtags, or promoting certain shows while still trying to balance my personal life, which people don't understand. That's a real challenge for anybody who's an independent wrestler, or any person that's honestly even who's signed to a certain extent, because when you committed to this industry of pro wrestling, you literally almost have to walk away from the life that you had. And for some people, it's a better life, and for some, it's like, it's a great life, but I don't want to lose the things that kept who you are. Because people understand when you transition to things in life, you're going to actually change. And sometimes people are afraid to change from what they were to what they're about to become because they're thinking they're going to become a product of something that they didn't even want to be in the first place. It's ridiculous, but I can honestly say for myself, that's been one of my biggest challenges, mixing my personal life with my wrestling life. Having my lovely woman with me. I've been with her for about 2-3 years, and through tough times and all that, she's still by my side. And trust me, I know it's a struggle for her as it is for me. So like I said, for every person who's listening to this and you're decided to become a wrestler, either two things: you have a partner that understands what you're going to go through, that you know that you don't know what you're going to go through, and you're going to take it the best way you can, or be single and take everything until you at a point where you know you can do it. That's the best way I tell you.
Yeah, 100% what you're saying. And real quick, if you like what me and Corey are talking about right now, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. To me, that's a real big compliment. It means that we're both doing a great job. I do a lot of live shows, and I do different things here on the Tristan Law Show. I'm usually live Tuesdays and Fridays at noon, but we made a special, occasion for Corey Dillinger to be here today. So, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But one of the things, Corey, that you were talking about was one of the balance that it means in being an indie pro wrestler. And WWE just launched a brand new program, the WWE ID, and it supports indie wrestlers and different stuff like that. How do you think something like that would impact the scene?
I think it will actually be a very helpful but yet damaging situation. I'm the weird person that always look at the double-edged sword. There's always two sides to the coin. So yes, for indie wrestlers, it will be an opportunity for us to actually get seen by the product more openly. Because, for what I was heard back in the day, you had certain people that were not working with WWE directly, but working passively, and they was with certain people. And, if you knew that person would talk to you and try to get you to the next step, next level. Now having this program out, it seems like it's more public. Now you're going to have certain schools that's going to have that influence to where they look at the talent or the new students they have and see, hey, can we take them to be part of their product, which is amazing. So it gives kids and adults and wrestlers opportunities to get to that main goal in more of an open access way. Because, back then it was more of like who and technically it is now, but now it's more public to where you know where to go because of the internet, because of technology and all these other things.
One of the things that I took from it, I'm definitely going to do a whole entire episode on the WWE ID thing and what it means to me and what it means to the future of pro wrestling. It 100% shows that WWE is making money, so much money that they can invest in the future of their future. Like, that's just how crazy it is to me. And looking at things like when you were talking about being able to balance your life and stuff like that, like I always said, if I was underneath a contract with WWE, of some kind of contract, bro, I would have been in the best shape possible because I wouldn't have to worry full-time about a regular job, and all I would have to do is just work out and train. I would have been a beast. Granted, a lot of people watching this may say, "Oh, well, you're making excuses. If it's your dream, go ahead and chase your dream." They're 100% right. Yes, there are people that made it that lived, in their cars and they have the stories to tell. But it's like, I didn't want to live in my car. Just like you, I had a girl, and the girl at the time, she didn't really understand, And I think even though the other girl that I got after, they don't really all understand. Like, to them, we're just like crazy. To them, it's like, being a rapper. We're just trying to be a rapper when we're old guys, which is not true. We're just like trying to chase this dream, which is really lucrative. And I think that with the WWE ID program, it's definitely going to help a lot of people in the shoes of me and you that want to do this and just need that extra financial motivation, so I don't have to worry so much about going to my full-time job. Maybe what I could have done, or maybe what a wrestler could do, is that they can take a part-time job and not have to worry so much about going to their job so much, and now they can focus more on their career and get themselves to that next level.
Yeah, definitely. Because I remember, at times, I'll rewind back. You said one of the schools that I trained from recently. So I trained with Dustin Rhodes at the Rhodes Wrestling Academy in Texas, in Austin. And to get ready for that was so strenuous and stressful. I had my woman question our relationship because how I was acting. I literally worked 2.5 jobs while trying to pay rent from my home, pay rent to be down there, pay my travels, and the tuition. And then try to find a way to make money while I'm down there while training. And while I was working my multiple jobs, one of them was FedEx, I threw my back. So I never told Dustin or anybody in the school about this, so they're going to find out now. I threw my back out. And I think it was like 2 weeks prior of me heading to Texas. And I was in so much pain to where, like, I don't know if you had those moments in your life, guys, where you would be in your bed and you stand up and you're like, the pain is so bad that you have to just drop down on the floor and just try to relieve yourself. And literally in that moment, I'm not going to lie to you, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Not trying to curse. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. And I had to tell myself, do you want this bad enough to continue? Do you want to stop? And I literally yelled to myself, no, I don't want to stop. And I literally was talking to myself to say, get up, take little steps. It was to the point where I managed to do my jobs, make the money I needed, drive down there, find a chiropractor, and get adjusted and work while training at the school and progressing throughout those weeks of training to the point where I did my match. I was in way better health. I was in better conditioning. And also I became out for that class. I was in class 7. I was the MVP of the class. So the fact that the growth that I put myself in that he didn't know, while also maintaining being a team player and also trying to be a leader when necessary to not only myself, but to my classmates. Because I look at it like this, when you're an older person, you have to learn how to still listen more, but be able to give people sound advice respectfully. Because a lot of times people would just throw out their ideas because they've been wrestling for so long and think they know better. Where if you care about not only the wrestling as entirely, but you care about the next generation, you'll speak better to the next generation so they can be better than you. Because my goal is I want to leave wrestling better than where I came from.
100%. 100%. Bro, it's like you talking about this. I normally don't do my podcast this long. I normally would have had you in and out right now, but I think that the conversation is just so great and is learning so much about your drive and passion and stuff like that. But I'm going to ask you one question. You were talking about your back and everything else like that and how you hurt yourself and you were going to Texas. For anybody who doesn't know, Texas is not close to New Jersey, right? Texas is literally like Texas is.
I drove. You
drove?
It took me 2 days. I drove. I didn't fly. I literally drove with my injured back. It took me I drove 11 hours. No, I drove 15 hours off from New Jersey to West Memphis, Tennessee. Slept in the hotel there, and then drove 8 hours to get to Austin.
All right,
and then drive around working.
I'm going to ask you one question then. Here's the question. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
It made me happy. I feel that I have a purpose. Like with basketball and how things were going down in that little bad slope I was in, wrestling became my new purpose. It became what helped me understand about being a business person, about me actually hustling the right way, but for me to actually give wisdom to others the way that they should have get it so they can make better decisions. And also it gives me purpose to know that I'm fulfilling something that I wanted as a kid. A lot of people in this world are not doing things that they want to do as a kid that makes them feel enjoyed, that even though they're going through the hard stuff, they're like, but I love this. And I know whatever I'm going through this is a problem. It's short term. It's not long term.
So
yeah, man.
You recently spent 12 weeks in Texas. 12 weeks in Texas training with Dustin Rhodes. You know, tell us a little bit more what the experience was like, especially being away from home.
Man, I'll be honest. I've never been away from home. Like out of my 36 years of living until, COVID, and I was always living in Irvington. I've always moved around into Irvington. Even if I left, it was there for maybe 3 days, and I'm right back where I was born. To be away was like, man, how can I explain it? It was refreshing, yet alerting, because I didn't know where I was going to be. I don't know what was going on. All I did was make plans and see if the plans follow. But as wrestlers, we always know, always be ready for an audible, always ready to call on the fly. And there was a lot of times when I was training down there and working, I was making stuff on the fly. It was to the point where I managed to get one job working for Longhorn university security at the Moody Stadium, made decent money with that. And then I had to make more money by doing Uber and the DoorDash with my car, knowing that my car shouldn't be driving that often because I just drove it from New Jersey.
This is all while you were in Texas. You were doing Uber and DoorDash?
Yeah. Wow. Well, actually, to be more correct, I was doing DoorDash, Uber Eats, and then security for the Moody Center. And just to try to make sure I had money while I was around, make sure I had money to pay the rent in this home that I have now, and also to pay for living down there. Because luckily I was blessed enough to take care of the tuition. So I had to just worry about those things. And then also keep in touch with people in my family to let them know that I'm doing great, and also getting a reinsurance that, like, for my woman, like I was telling her, like, I'm going to do better for you. Because of the fact that, because a fun fact, I was about to quit. There was a moment I was about to quit before my back. I went to my woman and I told her how I felt. And she said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to provide for this family. I'm going to just do what we got to do and make it work." She could tell in my voice that I felt defeated. But she literally came to me and said, "Corey, I believe in you. You have a gift. You have a chance to train with Dustin Rhodes. This can change your life. I don't want you to quit. I endorse you. I want you to go for this. Just apply and see what happens." I applied and got picked. So if she never spoke to me, I would have never had these stories that I could share. I would never have the journey that I have now, and I would never become the person I am now.
You know, let's give her a hand clap for that. You know, shout out to her. Shout out to your woman. You know, if she's watching this, shout out to her. You know, we need, you know, men, like, people need we need partners like you, you know, that take care of us and make sure that we're there. You know, make sure sometimes your head is just not there, and she was definitely there to make sure that your head was there. Tell me one lesson or piece of advice that you got from Dustin. And for those people who are watching who don't know who Dustin is the son of the late great American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and he is the older brother of WWE Undisputed Champion Cody Rhodes. So what's one piece of advice that you got from Dustin that has impacted your life or approach to wrestling?
Well, two things. Just three, but, like, I only said just one, but I just can't just give one. But I'll try not to make it in rankings. One thing he told me was to just always be in the moment. A lot of times people who are wrestlers are just trying to just go forward to the next thing, And sometimes you'll miss the opportunity to embrace that moment that can make it 10 times better to fulfill memories for either the fans, yourself, or even the scout that's looking at you. Another thing he emphasized with me was confidence. A lot of times people don't understand that us as wrestlers, and I already shared it through my testimony, we feel defeated, we feel beaten up, we feel challenged that we can't make it. But having confidence is a key thing of being a wrestler. I could be my build right now. As long as I have the confidence that I can move around, it wouldn't even matter. Even though by integrity, hey, I know I got to get myself in better shape. I always believe that you're always improving one way or another, either mentally or physically. But you got to show the confidence as if, like, I'm there already, or I'm going to get there and I'm going further. And a lot of times people don't do that. And a lot of us, we feel defeated on our own because either we're looking at the next person that's getting more bookings than we are, or that person is getting a title shot, knowing that damn well you deserve a title shot more than that other person does. And another thing I've learned within my journey and talking to him on the side as well was your time will come. And somebody has said this to me before, and this before, Dustin, what would you rather do? Have an opportunity and not be prepared, or be prepared and possibly not have an opportunity? And he corrected me. He corrected the word saying possibly, because a lot of times people don't understand that it's not if you're going to get it or you're not. If you get it and you're not prepared, that's still a possibility, but you're not prepared for it. But if you're prepared and you get it, there's no mistake that you earned it and you deserve it because you're taking the moment. And that's why I learned with Dustin as well. And the one thing I've learned with them, I'll say more on a business aspect, that's learning how to be a better business person. Like learning to get in the proper paperwork to take care of yourself while you're traveling, doing these things. You know, I'm going to say this. I encourage every person who's a wrestler to get a LLC, become a business, be able to write your stuff off. Because if you don't, you're literally just wasting potential money coming out your pocket. or that can money go back into your pocket for you busting your ass doing your shoot job, personal job while wrestling.
Yo, Corey, that's you're laying down some logic right now. You're giving away little tidbits on how people can be good wrestlers. But let me just talk to the viewers real quick. Next show tomorrow is live on YouTube. It's the WWE Crown Jewel 2024 recap. And don't forget that I'm live Tuesdays and Fridays at noon. So be sure to subscribe to be in the know. It means a lot to me. We are here with EWA. God, I can't talk. UWA Elite Champion. Thank you. UWA Elite Champion Corey Dillinger. He's defending his UWA Elite Championship on November 16th in South River, New Jersey. Tickets are exclusively available at uwaelite.com. Looking back at some of the toughest challenges that you faced, in wrestling, how did you overcome it to become the UWA Elite Champion? You're a 3-time champion, by the way, as well.
Yes, 3-time champion. And what I found out once I won it was there's only 3 people in the company that's ever been a 3-time champion or higher, and I'm one of them now. So that to me is an accomplishment on its own. When it came to building up all this stuff, it was like a lot of patience. But luckily, I was around a roster that fed off each other. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to get the one up and then we're calling it a day. It was like, yo, we're going to fight. We're going to see what happens. And it was to the point where at times I had matches where I felt like I was sparring in front of people instead of just having a match, because I had such a bond with some of these wrestlers in that locker room. And then when it came for my time, I was excited. I was motivated, but things changed. One of them was because I made the decision to head to Rhodes Wrestling Academy, because I was actually the champion. And then I spoke to the owner and I told him respectfully, I need to step away. And I didn't know what was going to happen next, because personally, I was actually thinking about relocating to Texas afterwards. I was being very straightforward with the owner. And somehow, before I even got to that final decision about saying what I was going to do, I lost the title. So to me, it was like, okay, I have to make a decision now. I'm going to go train. If I choose to come back, I have a purpose to get something that I deserve. If not, I start a new chapter. End result, I ended up coming back to New Jersey, and I clawed, bled, legit bled for that title to get back in my hands. And the fact that I'm going to defend this in 2 weeks on the 16th of November against 2 guys that I have the utmost respect for, but at the same time, I don't trust, because they have their own situation that I'm not going to put in details with each other. I got to keep this title, because this is more meaningful to me than actually having a match, because this is now showing me that I deserve everything that I've done prior to get to this. And I think people forgot that when you're a person that earns something, you earned it for a reason. And hell, my catchphrase is saying D1 since day one. It's because I've been D1. I've been diligent. I've been determined. I've been focused. All those things to make sure that I am worth the caliber that I bring.
Okay. All right. So how are you preparing for those 2 guys? What can fans expect to see from you at UWA Elite's Last Breath on November 16th?
Well, that's simple. I'm actually going back to my training basics. So a lot of people don't know I had a boxing background. So I'm going back to doing my old school boxing training, working on my footwork, working on moving around. The fact that wrestling has evolved to where before, like I said in the beginning, I had to be slower. I don't have to anymore. I actually can explode the way I want, because now people are seeing, what's that word to say? Deceitfully athletic athletes. People think that because if you're a big dude, you can't move, you can't fly, you're not quick enough. Majority of people that's playing major sports, they're not having 6-packs. They have their limbs to the maximum ability that they can move as if that you think they are 30 pounds lighter. I'm going back to that. I'm going to push back to that. Now, granted, I am a little torn because one of the guys named Joey Adams, he's basically got himself in a situation where he's forced to join the old guard, which is the other guy, Chris Powers' faction. He was forced to. So he's basically just doing obligations back and forth, but he's to the point where I think he's not that bad of a guy, but he's turning to one. But there's moments where he'll come to me straight in my face. I remember one of the shows at the end, he called his shot for a title match, and he earned it. So I gave it to him. And then at the match, his teammates tried to come in and try to interrupt. He pushed them back. But at the time, I didn't see that. I saw his back turn. I'm taking an opportunity. End of the day, we're in a fight. I'm not looking at you as what you're doing morally. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. So seeing that, and then also I found out Chris Powers did the same thing because he's trying to show uprightness, being upright, but he was doing shortcuts prior. So I don't know how to dynamic these guys. All I know is I got two guys that I can't turn my back on them. I got to stay focused and make sure that my eyes on the prize. Because if I slip up one way or another, one of those guys is going to take advantage. The same way I did to them.
Well, Corey, looking at your extensive background when it comes to pro wrestling and how long you've been in pro wrestling, the amount of training that you got, going to the Rhodes school, learning from everything else, you know, I think you're full of advice, and I want you to give me one bit of advice you would give to aspiring independent wrestlers who want to really make it in this industry. What would your advice be to them?
It would be two things. Well, actually three. Be confident. Be able to talk. There's a lot of people out there that just don't know how to talk. They're not sociable. And also being aware of people that's actually going to be using you or helping you. And it's okay to be used. Just make sure you use them too. A lot of people forget that. And also try your hardest to be self-efficient majority of the time. And when you're able to help somebody else, have them return the favor to you. It will be less stressful in the long run. It might have a little stress in the beginning, but in the long run, it'll be less stressful. You'll build connections, you'll build rapport, and you'll have a network to actually maintain something that you have right now already or to push forward for something later.
Well, everybody, that was Corey Dillinger. You can check him out at Last Breath, which is UWA Elite Show, Saturday, November 16th, 2024 at South River VFW in South River, New Jersey. Tickets are exclusively available on UWAElite.com. I'd like to thank Corey Dillinger. Corey, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a long overdue. Don't forget to join me tomorrow for the WWE Crown Jewel 2024 live recap tomorrow right here on YouTube. Don't forget that I'm live Tuesdays and Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to set your clocks back. Thanks so much, Corey, once again for joining us. This is the Tristan Law Show, and thanks for joining us. And I think we'll see you next time.